about 30 seconds. We're just going to give everyone a chance to get into the room. Right, so it's 11 a.m. Everyone's coming into the room right now. We've got a big audience today, and I definitely want to thank everyone for coming. Great presentation. I'm super excited about this, talking about teledentistry. I just want to tell you guys my personal experience. I have a son in college, and he sent me a text a couple weeks ago and said, "Dad, I got a toothache. What's going on?" And luckily, I'm friends with a lot of dentists, and he sent me a photo of his tooth, and I was able to send it to his dentist and get some immediate feedback. And I didn't even realize this morning that I was actually practicing, or not practicing, but I was utilizing teledentistry in some way, shape, or form. That being said, when I put this series out, I had a lot of speakers that said, "Gee, I definitely want to help out." One of them was definitely Justin Morgan. I can't say enough about Justin and his law firm. I've worked with them for years, and he's really taken the lead on this topic. He's gone out and done some research. And I think it's great to give you guys a perspective of the legal side of teledentistry. Today, we're also going to have Dr. Sastre join us. Dr. Sastre has a platform, teledentistry.com. He's going to give us some better context by running us through his platform and kind of showing us how teledentistry works. So without further ado, I'm super excited. I'm going to sit back and watch this one as well. Justin, you can hopefully see his presentation there on your screen. A few housekeeping items. The Q&A box, we're going to utilize that quite a bit. If you have questions as we go ahead and put those in the Q&A box. The chat feature is going to be there. If you have problems with the audio or something's going on, go ahead and use the chat feature. We've got about 75 doctors in the room right now. We're expecting about 150 or 200, so people are piling in. But put the questions in the Q&A, and Justin's either going to tackle those as he goes, or we're going to put some Q&A time at the end, and Justin's going to go ahead and take care of that. So without further ado, I can't thank you all enough for coming. Hopefully this is great information. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to my good friend Justin, and go ahead and mute myself. Justin, it's all yours.
Jonathan, thank you for the great introduction. And thank you to everybody that's here. Today we're here to talk about teledentistry and recent changes in the law, also ADA guidance. We will go through what exactly it is. We will talk about why it is making progress in terms of its ability to provide care to people. And then we'll also talk about legal and ethical considerations along with what is permitted under California law. I'm an attorney and a partner at Wood & Delgado. We're located out of Mission Viejo, California, but we serve dentists in California, Texas, and we consult with dentists throughout the United States regarding transitions, business needs, and any issue we can hopefully help them with, especially during this time of need. So we all understand what dentistry is, but teledentistry is a little bit different. The best way to describe and understand it is that it is the use of telecommunications technology to diagnose and practice dentistry on a limited basis. California defines it as a mode of delivering healthcare services in public health. Excuse me, let's see here, sorry. There we go. Via information communication technologies to facilitate the diagnosis, consultation, treatment, education, care management, self-management of a patient's healthcare while the patient is at the originating site and the healthcare provider is at a distant site. Now, absent from the definition of telehealth is the actual treatment, which means that we're going to be able to use telehealth and teledentistry to provide that initial diagnosis, to triage patients, which is especially important today with the outbreak of coronavirus, so that we limit their exposure, we limit the office exposure, and your personal exposure to people that might be infected or have been exposed to the disease. Some of the benefits of teledentistry, by being able to communicate with your patients on an almost immediate basis, you can help them improve their dental hygiene. You can reduce costs to consumers and the providers who provide the care by streamlining the level and the means of communication with your patient. As long as telehealth stays present and continues to grow, it will disrupt current business models and spur further innovation, increasing access to care amongst urban and rural communities. I see a huge opportunity for offices during this time to provide telehealth to their patients and also to advertise it to the broader market in case of an emergency that may facilitate or may not require a visit to the emergency room. So consider all of the patients that may have a burning question but don't want to go into the ER because perhaps they have, an individual at home that might be subject to greater exposure or has some pre-existing health conditions that put them at risk for coronavirus. So offering telehealth and teledentistry would be an optimal resolution to avoid that trip to the ER. Potentially they could just get by with an emergency script or something like that. So they can prevent exposure to other family members. Teledentistry can improve access to care for patients, eliminate unnecessary visit, can maximize the time that your office has in terms of providing care. And so, let's see here. And also it can increase profit margins for savvy users. So what I've seen as I've researched this topic is that dental offices and specific dentists are jumping on board with this and figuring out ways in which they can streamline their processes at their office, both during COVID-19, the current pandemic, and also preparing for after the pandemic to fill dead space within their schedule, potentially eliminate redundant visits, whether that's pre-op or post-op, and really maximize the time that they've got in their office and also reduce the time that their patients need to allot to get the care that they need. What has spurred this kind of rapid rise in teledentistry is not only the COVID-19 pandemic, but the ADA previously issued in the middle of March this interim and billing guidance on teledentistry, and they subsequently revised it on the 14th, 2020, April 14th, 2020. Feel free to reach out to me so I can provide you with a link to this information or a PDF of this actual guidance afterwards. It contains a ton of information. It's very useful, but we'll go through some of the main points here. It provides coding guidance to those that are using telecommunication technology to triage patients and offers, offer an evaluation to determine whether the situation is urgent or emergent. It sets the goal of utilizing telecommunication technology to triage patients and conduct problem-focused evaluations to limit office visits to only those patients who need urgent or emergency care to prevent the unnecessary spread of disease. It also notifies the dental community that the Office of Civil Rights, which is a federal governmental entity, has indicated that they will waive penalties for HIPAA violations against healthcare providers that serve patients in good faith through certain non-public software applications, such as FaceTime, Skype, Facebook Messenger, or Google Hangouts. This is a very critical point to understand. Essentially, the federal government has said, we are not going to impose HIPAA on providers that operate in good faith. That allows for individuals to create their own do-it-yourself platform to provide teledentistry services to their patients during this time. You can advertise this to your patients via email, text, letter, whatever they need, and you can let them know that you can set up a consultation via FaceTime at any time of the day, during office hours, during the weekend, to determine whether there's a need that requires follow-up, an emergency script, or a trip to the emergency room. As mentioned before, this limits the exposure of everybody to COVID-19. Also, I do not recommend Zoom, which is ironically the platform that we're using today, as the means by which you provide your patients with care, simply because there have been reports of that platform not being as secure as others. I'm sure that the platform will fix those issues over time, but I would stay away from Zoom for the time being. guidance from the OCR does not address communicating with your clients by email and text. While HIPAA does not bar these forms of communication, you should ensure steps. Your office should take steps to ensure that any communications with your clients will be HIPAA compliant. So whether that's searching online for HIPAA compliant email servers, or making sure that your email servers with your means of communications with your client are HIPAA compliant currently, or taking the steps during this downtime to revamp and reformat how you communicate with your clients to ensure HIPAA compliance. I believe that taking that step is going to be critical moving forward, because if you're able to incorporate teledentistry into your services to your patients, I think that you'll not only maximize value for them, but you might be able to attract new patients and increase the size of your practice as well. Okay. Now, delivering teledentistry, two broad forms. Now that HIPAA compliance has been relaxed, you can do it yourself, right? So there are three main things that you really want to consider when you are going to provide teledentistry to your clients. You'll want to have an informed consent form. You'll want to make sure that you have HIPAA compliant email and communication methodology. And then also you'll choose the means by which you communicate with your patients, whether that's FaceTime, Google Hangouts, or any of the other applications that are out there. And there are sure to be more that are sprouting up. The positives of do it yourself, relaxed regulations allow you to set this up and get it going immediately. It's cost effective, and it can also increase the patient base and revenue stream. The negatives would be that, it might not be HIPAA compliant on the front end, so you may need to make that change later on after regulations tighten. And then also, depending on the jurisdiction in which you practice, you'll need to determine whether what you're doing and the care that you're providing is permitted by state law. I know that the majority of individuals in this room will be California licensed dentists, but for those outside of the state, you should check with either myself or a local attorney to determine whether teledentistry is permitted within that particular jurisdiction. For example, after the ADA came out with this interim billing guidance, the Texas State Board of Examiners stated that teledentistry is expressly not permitted under Texas law, and so effectively barred everybody in the state of Texas from providing teledentistry services to their patients. On the other end, there are commercial platforms. We can refer to these as plug and play. We have Dr. Vilas Sastry here today to kind of quickly chat with us about his platform, teledentistry.com, how long they've been, active in this market, and, the services that they provide. There are, others that are sprouting up, all over the place, but, I was reaching out to some of these platforms during the course of my research, and, I met Dr. Vilas because he responded pretty quickly. So I'd like to give him a couple of minutes to quickly chat about his platform and what that provides before we move on.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Justin, for the introduction there. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of present kind of what we've been able to do these past couple of years. Really, when we were looking to start up our teledentistry platform, we began it well over 4 years ago. And since then, we've grown the company considerably into different types of modalities by which we can deliver care to patients. To your point on your slides earlier, you're right. There are a lot of new entrants right now, and essentially they're all video conferencing technology platforms, and ours is as well. The difference is, I think what you also mentioned was, okay, how long are these companies going to last, And that's kind of something where you can kind of tell just from the platform itself, when you start playing around with it, how wholesome is it, for the patient experience as well as for the doctor experience, and how does it integrate with your practice? Myself personally, we have 3 practices here in Las Vegas. We have our own DSO, and we battle tested our systems within our own practices before deploying it to other practices. We actually deployed it even prior to COVID, and this was back in 2019. And we've helped a lot of our subscribers with their teledentistry systems and being able to deploy these new technologies in an effort to optimize their the practice efficiency. So really, if you were to think about it, the solution that we had was never built for a COVID world. It just so happens to be that it works at this time because of COVID. So it wasn't something like anybody could have planned for this. All dental practices shutting down. That's not anything that we could have foreseen. So to that end, how do we use it? Really is kind of important to kind of keep in mind. We use it for initial triage when a patient first calls in, because I'm a practicing dentist and I have my schedule, and I'll be like, okay, I want to leave at 4 or 5 p.m., whatever the case may be, and then somehow every day on Friday 4:30 p.m. there'll be that one patient that walks in and needs all kinds of treatment, and every dentist on this panel can can speak to that. So there's just so many things that we can do through teledentistry to help our patients during that critical time, such as prescribing antibiotics and painkillers over the telephone, to the pharmacy, doing a video conference so exactly what it is that the patient is coming in with, and that's just initial triage. Also, I'm sure the other doctors in the room can speak to this too, is post-operative appointments. You'll book, production 1, production 2, and then you'll have post-op and then recall and whatnot, and the rest of your schedule and different columns. Somehow, in our practice, we found, half the patients who would schedule for a post-op appointment wouldn't show, but it still occupies space on our schedule. And so to that end, it was a great deal of inefficiency that we found. And so what we did was we moved all of those post-operative appointments to virtual. This way, now when the patient has the need, or if they don't want to show up, that's okay. It's not like we're going to go crazy because they didn't show up, but now we're not keeping a room open, an operatory open for them, so that, they just don't show up. It's a loss in terms of the practice efficiency and overheads. And then, of course, we have an orthodontic component to our practice where we deploy the solution for that as well. So orthodontics is like a whole branch of teledentistry. And so we have our chief orthodontic officer is actually currently on another webinar talking to an orthodontist about how we use the system there. So there's just so many different ways in which you can use this technology. And it's not just our platform, quite honestly. There are other platforms out there. I would encourage you to check it out, and go into the different types of platforms, see what they are, see how they integrate. Most importantly, do they require additional equipment? Our platform just relies on smartphone technology. It's app-based and uses existing laptops and stuff that you already have in your office. So you don't have to buy an additional intraoral camera. You don't have to invest additional monies. It's just a software plug and play, and then you just rock and roll, and you can deploy the solution. So there's just so many different things that I can see some Q&A coming up over there. So let's see. Can you briefly tell us how you use virtual orthodontic platform, doctor? Yes, so basically for adjustments in orthodontics, that's how we use that feature. Oftentimes what we'll find is that the patient does not need to come back in for an adjustment appointment or just for a post-op check. And so we'll do that virtually. And we can kind of see also hygiene checks. We do that for our perio patients too. Sometimes we'll just say, okay, here's a disclosing tablet. And go ahead and pop it in your mouth, and then show us if you've been keeping your teeth clean. So if you've done a 4-quad scaling root planing and then you need to do a perio maintenance, or maybe they've just come in and they just need to check and make sure that they've actually been keeping their teeth clean, this is how we do it. We've got some more Q&A here. Would you go over the chart notes for teledentistry appointment? And Dr. Vilas is not live. I'm live. Okay, anonymous attendee. All right, no problem. Would you go over the chart notes for teledentistry appointment? No problem. So we have so teledentistry chart notes. The ADA has given guidance on what the chart notes should include. how long was your appointment? What was the chief complaint of the patient? Essentially, your SOAP notes. There's only a couple of things you got to tweak to it, which is the how long your appointment was, and then did you do an interactive session? That's critical, because if you did not do an interactive session, you cannot bill it to the insurance company. So just keep that in mind, because to Justin's point earlier, I'm sorry, I've gone way over 5 minutes. So Justin, if you want to kick me off, just let me know. Okay. So, how much longer do I have, you think? It's about 11:20.
Why don't you answer Austin's question? And then we'll quickly chat about your platform, how they can find you.
Yeah.
And then we'll follow up with any other questions afterwards.
Sounds good. Okay. So you need to have the, like I said, your regular SOAP notes, and then how long the appointment was, is in how long you were actually face-to-face with the patient, and then whether it was interactive or not. Okay. So if you are able to maintain those two things, that should complete your note, along with, of course, your regular SOAP findings. There we go. Go ahead. And let's move on with the rest of it. And back to you, Justin.
Great. Okay. Oh, also, Dr. Vivas, so what are you offering any discounts or anything to help people sign up with?
Sure. Actually,
right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Incidentally, since our DSO shut down, like here in Vegas, like everybody else's, but our teledentistry business in the practice has essentially helped us to stay open virtually, even though our doors are closed, and so that's been something that has been tremendous. Even some of our other DSO clients, we have they're doing the same thing. And so we're all technically open virtually. And what we're doing is, as a courtesy to all of our fellow dental professionals, we're offering our platform for free all the way till June 30th, which we're hoping that will be able to help get through this COVID crisis, learn the technology, because a lot of companies are charging, and I saw this myself, and I was like, okay, they're charging setup fees. They're trying to get you to buy a lot of stuff and do all that kind of stuff. We just said, okay, let's just give it away for free. I'm a dentist. The people here on the thing are a dentist too. So it's at no charge at all till June 30th, 2020.
Dr. Vias, Dr. Vias, is Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan.
If I could bring you back on possibly for just a presentation about your platform and some more of these questions in a couple of days, would you be receptive to that? And if you're in the audience and you want to see more of the platform and a discussion with Dr. Vias, I definitely appreciate his time today. But if you want to see that, send me a quick email or put a comment in the chat box, and we'll set up a special webinar just with him to present the platform and more Q&A on the actual operation of the platform.
Certainly, yeah. The name of the company says it all, and just as teledentistry.com, and you click on that and get set up ASAP, and we'll be in touch with you guys to help you get set up on your platform. So that's it's all free until June 30th. We're just doing it as a courtesy. So to answer many of the questions that seem to be coming on the thing here.
Well, I'll address some of these. So let's see. From Danielle Savesky, how do we specify that it's interactive when billing the insurance company? Can you elaborate on interactive? Aren't all teledentistry interactive? There's several different types of teledentistry. There's store and forward, and there's also, so that's asynchronous, which is you send photos or information to a provider and that provider provides a response. So that wouldn't technically be interactive, but interactive would be synchronous, which is the live chat, the things that we're talking about now. And I'll dig into, what's happened with the law and how that's developed. It's currently permitted in California. But I'd like to continue moving forward, and I'll look at notes, and we can also go through a lot of this stuff during the question and answer session. Okay, so commercial platforms, there's teledentistry, we've discussed that. Some of them are going to be HIPAA compliant. It's going to be difficult to determine who's HIPAA compliant on the front end because you've got startups that may say, okay, we're HIPAA compliant, but we don't really know that. They're tried and tested. Negatives could be that, cost could be an initial factor, especially while your practice is shut down. I know that some of these platforms are offering discounts up front, free, use of it for a period of time, that sort of thing. So consider that. There could also be issues with new technology. Early companies could go out of business. At present, the use of FaceTime, these sorts of screen sharing telecommunications, it's reached, a pretty solid, stable state. So I think that you can be assured that you can be able to communicate with your patients and see enough detail to adequately, work with them on the diagnosis basis. Let's go to the next one. So, here are some of the commercial platforms. I'm not going to go over this in detail because I'd like to get to some of the meat and potatoes, the legal aspects of it, the ethical concerns, and then open this up for questions and answers. But you've got Teledentistry there, Simplify, Mouthwatch, Revenue Well, Access Dentistry, Virtue Dent, the Teledentist.com. Now, some of these are platforms where a doctor can log into that platform, use those services, and start practicing teledentistry immediately. Some of these are, hybrids, where they've opened up this platform, but they provide, other services. And so, I'm happy to chat with you about what I've seen. I would suggest that you do your own research just to make sure you find a platform and something that works for your practice. There are significant and important ethical and legal issues to consider when considering providing teledentistry, right? There's obviously the standard of care, which is first and foremost. You need to make sure that the level of diagnosis and the information that you're providing your patients rises to the standard of care, because that's not going to be ameliorated during this time. Now, if you've got a bad connection, if you can't really adequately see and diagnose the patient, you need to take that into consideration, and you may need to, reschedule the appointment or make sure that you're able to get a good grasp of what's going on with that patient because you're not able to see them in person. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. We're all aware of that. Title II establishes the policies and procedures for maintaining the privacy and security of protected health information, electronic protected health information. As we mentioned before, and for those who just jumped in, HIPAA violations and enforcement of HIPAA during this time have been drawn down for those who act in good faith. The other issue that you need to be concerned and aware of is making sure that your patients provide informed consent to receiving teledentistry and telehealth services. So you should have your patients execute a teledentistry specific consent form that identifies the nature of the consultation, the reason for the consultation, and an acceptance of the risks associated with sharing your electronic protected health information and the office's efforts to protect it. The informed consent form should also identify the unique risks associated with a limited consultation using telecommunication. Obviously, it's not a consultation you can provide in person, so there's going to be some differences, and you're going to want to make sure that your informed consent form reflects that. Also, on to state law issues. Jurisdictions vary widely in their acceptance of teledentistry and telehealth. States are starting to pass these laws. California was on the forefront. California passed Assembly Bill 1174, effective January 1st, 2015, which authorized the store and forward teledentistry in the state of California. AB 1519, effective January 1st, 2020, made some changes to telehealth and teledentistry in that it also permitted synchronous interactions, which is the communications via active telecommunications methods, which would be FaceTime or Zoom or something like that. There was also some additional impositions and requirements imposed on teledentistry or the use of telecommunications with the provision of orthodontic care. That appears to be directed at Smile Direct Club and some other orthodontic-based teledentistry companies that are out there. And so just as an example of how state regulations and states' permissive use of this differs across jurisdictions, I know Texas and Maine have both come out and said teledentistry is not permitted yet, and they're still working on those bills and trying to figure those issues out. I believe that because of COVID and because of the potential leadership that other states will take on this matter, teledentistry will continue to grow and will ultimately see adoption by all 50 states in various forms. I think that all of the statutes will look a little bit different, and we'll need to pay attention to all of those as we guide our clients through, whether they're starting their own telehealth service or they're going to be using a commercial platform. Also, we'll want to make sure that we adhere to and abide by licensure issues. You're going to want to make sure that whoever you're providing care to is within the state in which you were licensed. And so you may add an additional verification on either your informed consent form or somewhere else when they provide patient records that the person that you're providing the care to is currently in the state of California. I wouldn't want to see any of my clients be providing care to somebody that's in Texas or in New Mexico and run afoul of dental boards in other jurisdictions. Okay, there are specific requirements under California law for telehealth, and these are updated requirements effective January 1st. You're going to need to identify who's providing the service. So you need to provide the name, telephone number, practice address, and the California state license number of any dentist who will be involved in the provision of telehealth, right? Then you're also going to need informed consent from the patients, which we've already discussed. And then all laws regarding privacy, professionalism, and standards of practice still apply to telehealth. So you'll need to continue acting in the manner that which you've always acted, which is putting your patients first and providing them the best level of care. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions, and we can go ahead and jump into that questions box and let's see, and address any of those that you may have.
So there's a few in the box there now, Justin. I don't know. It looks like they've dismissed the answered ones, but at least there's 9 or 10 in there. So please put your questions in there. We're going to do all these questions live. Justin's going to read them. For those that Dr. Vias was actually live, it wasn't a recording, so he's with us as well.
Yeah. I think he's dropped off, so we no longer have him. But I think that you'll be able to do another presentation with him to answer more specific questions about the practice of dentistry as well. Oh, here he is.
I am. Sorry, what was that, Justin? I missed that. I was on another call. Go ahead.
No worries. Just one moment. I'm going to answer Kevin Lowe's question. How do you get informed consent? Kevin, along with getting all of your patient information, so if you're sending them documentation for new patient, any of the updated consent forms, you need an individual document and an informed consent form. I've been reformulating and drafting these for clients as they've started this practice, and then you send that to the client, make sure that you get it executed and returned to you before you provide those services. So it's not going to be as quick as, okay, well, any of my patients can call me up on my cell phone, we can FaceTime, and then we can go ahead and move forward. You will need to get that form executed, and it'll need to make sure that they understand what the services are going to be provided and that they're going to be operating at telehealth and protected information and whatnot. There are some forms out there put out by the CDA, and I believe the ADA has a sample informed consent form as well. I've been tailoring these to the needs of my clients as we've moved on. Let's see. How do you bill for it? By Ermi Amin. So the ADA has provided guidance and provided suggested billing codes for the limited diagnosis and evaluation. And so you'll really need to start, I would recommend reaching out to me after this webinar is over, and I can go ahead and send the ADA document to you, and you can check with the individual provider, see if they're listed on that document, or check with the provider of the patient to determine what codes are available and how you can make sure that you get credit and paid for it. Jack Krauser, can informed consent be verbal that is recorded? In my review of informed consent and just I would prefer that it's in writing. But if you record it, I mean, I would still prefer that it's in writing, right? Because the informed consent is not just patient X, do you consent to, being provided telehealth services via FaceTime? The informed consent form is going to go through very specific things that are going to protect you in the event of an issue down the road. So that would be my guidance there. From Austin Hagegi, is there any minimum appointment time for the synchronous teledentistry appointment? I believe that's going to be by provider. I don't see anything in the law that sets any restrictions or limitations on that. Let's see. Okay, let's see. All right, so Danielle Savesky, our office has received denials on the teledentistry code D9995, that's inclusive in the fee for the completed service. Will insurance companies pay for this code? Again, the answer to that's going to be depends. At this point, insurance companies have taken different positions regarding teledentistry. Some have come all the way out and said, yes, we're providing, we will pay under these specific codes. Some are adjusting and tweaking their reimbursement. So you'll need to check with those individual providers. And I think all of this stuff is rapidly developing. So I think the answer is that it depends. So,
would you mind if I chimed in on Danielle's question as well, Justin?
No, please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
And Danielle, what's going on is this whole situation has caused an explosion of interest in teledentistry, as well as much needed reform when it comes to telehealth in general for dentistry. To Justin's point earlier, a lot of the laws around the country were designed to stem the assault on dentistry by certain DIY orthodontic companies. And so they kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater, if you know what I mean. And that was kind of the issue. And so, licensed dentists also cannot perform teledentistry now in some states. Texas still has opposition to it. So does Maine, by the way. So there are still some holdouts. And I feel bad for those folks who are living in those states and can't access a dentist right now. It's like you're hamstrung, So what, to your point, how do you bill for these kinds of procedures? The codes for teledentistry were adopted by the ADA some years ago, actually, but no dental insurance company had put a payout code to them. Now what the ADA has done is said, you've got to bill for the D0140 code, which is a limited exam, and to notify the insurance company that it's a telehealth code by also adding in the D995 code, which is the synchronous code. One thing to keep in mind, now this is kind of Pandora's box that you open with the ADA doing this, because that is a limited oral evaluation problem-focused code. And that's the full definition of that code. And prior to this, prior to COVID, they specifically said that that code cannot be used for teledentistry, So to Justin's point, this is a fast evolving situation. I am certain that it's going to be a different thing once COVID is over. HIPAA is gone, for example, right now. That's just incredible, So there's lots of things that are happening just in response to trying to help, our fellow citizens here in the country. So things will change very quickly once the national emergency is over, and you can be sure that HIPAA will come clamping back down like they always do. And you can be sure that state licensure restrictions will be ever so more important. And you can also be sure that insurance companies will be auditing you every single time you fill out those codes. So you gotta have record keeping that's legit. You gotta have quick access to that information, so that way when you're getting audited, you're not like on the back foot. And yes, can you do this by yourself? Absolutely. Nobody's saying you cannot be on the other end of a video conference and that suddenly becomes teledentistry. No, nobody's going to question that. But having a platform that synchronously connects you with the patient, connects to your practice, and then also has all those features that that you need in order to be able to do this kind of a service, that's really where this kind of shines. And again, there are other platforms. It's not just mine. Our company's been around for a long time. Do your homework, check out different types of systems, and then, make your decision accordingly. And, ultimately it's your license on the line. So you got to be able to be sure that, you're doing things that are on the up and up. Just like my license is on the line, when I'm doing these teledentistry consults too. So I got to look out for myself. You guys got to look out for yourself. And we got attorneys here looking out for you. So, got to make sure that it's the right stuff. Okay. All right. Sorry. A lot longer answer than just a simple coding thing.
If you guys want to tackle that Q&A together, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm frankly, I am trying to type out as many answers as I can. But I'll answer this one by Jack Krauser. Can the teledentistry forums be linked to Google and or Facebook posting pages? As long as the information on the consent forms don't, as long as you're not sharing private information and it's just a form or way that they can download that form and get it to you, I would think that would be okay. But you need informed consent and you need a good form that's going to go ahead and outline all the things that we discussed. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how you should approach that problem. John, do you know have we recorded this webinar? Are you going to make a recording available?
Yeah, so it's definitely being recorded, but I'm going to ask your permission and Dr. Via's permission afterwards, after I edit out the beginning and the end, and then share a copy with the two of you if you want me to go ahead and post it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll and this is in response to Bardia Faramand.
I like Fred Mohammadi's question here. If I am licensed in California, can I do a teledentistry consult for a patient in New York? Only if they're an existing patient of record. So in other words, let's say you did, and this may change, okay? So don't take my word for it on this one. But prior to COVID, okay, and I'm in Las Vegas, right? Everybody from the whole country comes here, right? And you
guys there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Oh, did I lose you guys for a moment?
Internet.
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine. It's been going good.
So I'll go back to Fred's question here. So, and I'll give you my personal experience, right? So I'm licensed in the state of Nevada, obviously, and multiple other states. Okay, so for me, it's a different story. However, that being said, if it's a patient of record, all right, and my patient goes to New York City, but they were my patient here in Las Vegas, and I pulled the tooth or something on them, right? And now they're having an issue because they took a flight and now they're sitting in New York City. Yeah, I can actually prescribe medications and do a teledentistry consult because they were my patient. So you could have, in your own practice, you could have like edited your initial intake form to say, we do teledentistry consults and something simple like that, and it doesn't have to be something pervasive, or intrusive for the patient. It can be just like another section, I consent to have teledentistry consults done, with you as my doctor and whatnot. So these are all things that, can be easily done in the practice. We have, these guides, we do this in our own practice, and so these are some things that can easily be done to set yourself up for when the shutdown is lifted, and then you'll be ready for, the next phase of our careers, I suppose, which is, this telehealth enabled, teledentistry enabled future of dentistry. So.
Great, thank you. And then Diane Casey has asked the question, a returning patient seeks teledentistry. If your consent to treat form has a provision for teledentistry, is an additional consent needed, or will the previous one do? Again, that's going to be, it depends. It depends on what your initial consent form says regarding teledentistry. If it was drafted by an attorney, if you pulled it offline and you tried to revise it based off of what was already out there, you might be okay. I'd be happy to take a quick look at it for you. But I don't think that you're going to need two consents just because things have changed. If you already were, making strides towards providing teledentistry and you've got that informed consent, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that most of the state boards are determining that that the teledentistry is within the scope of practice of dentistry. So rather than having it like some other alien field, it's a branch of dentistry. So if I'm a general dentist and I do an extraction, that's within the scope of general dentistry. They're saying, so is teledentistry now. So that's what a lot of the state boards are coming out with, that kind of specific language, which is very supportive of this technology, by the way,
Yeah. Okay, so Hannah H. This question is, if a patient emails you photos of their teeth and gums and you call them to discuss what you're seeing and help them via phone, can you bill that as a teledentistry limited exam to their insurance? Basically, if there's no video involved, is that considered teledentistry as well? And I would believe that that would be considered teledentistry. Going back to the definition of this is the use of telecommunications. And I don't know if you need to have, live video because you're doing this store and forward, which also falls within the ambit of
I'll actually counter that one. Sorry, Justin. The ADA guidance specifically states that a phone call does not qualify for the interactive thing. So not to.
I would understand that, but it says that if the patient emails you photos of their teeth and gums, so this would be the store and forward. And I think that just a telephone call, I think that's accurate. It's not telehealth, but the email of the photo and gums, that's going to be, subject to HIPAA. I think it falls within telehealth.
Okay. It's definitely telehealth. I just don't know if you can bill, because this is what we're going through right now. You cannot bill the D0140 code. You can bill the D996 code, but you cannot bill it in conjunction with the D0140, which is what insurers are paying out on. So that's where that it's a little bit of a quirk. And the latest ADA guidance does state specifically that phone calls do not qualify. So it would be akin to having the patient in your practice. You take x-rays, you take intraoral images, you do all that stuff. You have your own charting record. Now, Johnny's sitting in front of me. I've taken x-rays and whatnot. And then, 2 days later, he calls me on the telephone. I just look at, I just look on my computer at the office, the images that I've already taken, for example, and I'm talking to him on the phone, right? That does not qualify for the D0140 under the current ADA guidance. However, if Johnny took those intraoral photos using a smartphone camera, uploaded it, sent it to you somehow, and you're looking at it on your smartphone, then you have a live video conference to talk to Johnny. That qualifies for the D0140, and you can then bill, in addition to that, the D995 code, and then get reimbursed from the insurance company for it. So that's kind of the exact the way in which the ADA has defined it through their most recent guidance.
Yeah. And that also highlights how much harmonizing needs to occur between state law, the ADA, and also payers and billers, or insurance. So, again, we're on the cusp of this, and it's been around for a while, but it's going to continue to develop and assume rapidly.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for that question. Dr. Vivas, you see a question by Liberty Tomlins.
Yeah,
How does a DES support prescriptions at a distance if triplicate is required? Mail seems slow.
I think what she's referring to is controlled substances. That's the only situation where a triplicate would be required. And luckily, controlled substances cannot be prescribed electronically. And that is part of the Ryan Haight Act way back in the early 90s. A young man known as Ryan Haight, he ordered a bunch of some kind of controlled substance online and promptly overdosed and unfortunately passed away. His parents took it upon themselves to get the Ryan Haight Act passed, and made it so that you cannot order online controlled substances. If you are a DDS and you want to prescribe controlled substances, you must use an e-prescription system that we have in our platform, but you must be a verified prescriber. You have to have a controlled substance token. Then you can send it across. But again, this is rife with risk because unless this is an existing patient, you know who it is, you want to send them controlled substances, I would personally stay away from it altogether and just do like a regular antibiotic and an NSAID type of a painkiller. You'll be much safer from a legal standpoint than trying to send Oxycontins across the country to somebody, so just so you know. So e-prescription is the way to go, and mail is very slow. You're right. Okay.
Good. Let's see. So Bonnie Jew, if a patient texts us a photo of their teeth, does this qualify for the HIPAA relaxed guidelines? I believe so, right? I mean, I would set up a HIPAA compliant email and ask them to use that email, which has end-to-end encryption. But if you've got someone that doesn't know how to use that yet, I think that you're going to be okay as long as you operate in good faith. And I would send that email to a HIPAA compliant email server before I would communicate any other information back to that patient, just so you know that from your end, you're going to be protected and you're doing your best to protect their information.
That's no different than if they were to be in your office, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, anonymous attendee, Dr. Vilas said we can offer teledentistry to our existing patients. Accurate. Does that mean we can't offer it to a new patient in need? And I would think I think you would be able to offer it to a new patient in need, but you're going to need to get them in the office at some point in time. Dr. Vilas, can you talk about the mechanics of how that works?
Yeah, certainly. So what we found is that, and this is a stat that we generated over, maybe 14,000 patients that we've done teledentistry consults for just in the last year. That number is exponentially higher right now because of COVID, obviously. But what we found was for new patients who got teledentistry done with our practice, 70% of them came in within 90 days. So it's an incredible new patient gen system that we deploy in our practices. We practically stopped marketing altogether because our conversion rate at the initial consult was so high. Let's go back to that question. Where is it? Can we offer it to our existing patients, right? Or new patients? So yeah, you can offer it to new patients. You just should not do it unless you have their full medical and dental history. If you don't know who Johnny is, or if you don't know if he's got an amoxicillin allergy or something like that, then don't do the consult. Have them fill out the form. If it's on their smartphone or an app or however they do it, right? Make sure they get it done. Once it's done, yeah, absolutely. There's no reason you cannot, and so you go from there. Yeah.
Great. My win, would you tell us how to set up a HIPAA compliant email? I would suggest searching around on Google and looking at the various providers. I posted on my LinkedIn a website that's got a link to some of the top HIPAA compliant email providers, and then you can also reach out afterwards, and I'll send you that information. You can take a look at those and see which ones work for you.
Justin, I have another webinar/podcast I have to hop on here at 12 o'clock. So I wanted to say thank you to both you and Jonathan for inviting me to this webinar. And I'd be happy to hop on another call or another webinar and discuss more about what we have in terms of solutions. And in general, just answer questions. I mean, this is like a crazy time for everybody. So I get it, and so, if I can be of help, it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
Great. Dr. Vilas, thank you so much. I would love to invite you back to do another call with the Q&A. And if you could actually present your platform and maybe some samples of how it actually functions, it'd be fantastic. I can't say thank you enough to appreciate your time on behalf of the the 150 people here in the room. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Take care, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dr. Vivas. Great. So I believe we've got a few more minutes. I'm going to try to address the final questions. Let's see here. Okay, so here's another question by Fred Mohammadi. Do you have to provide evidence of video conference taking place? If so, how? I think that Dr. Vilas touched on this earlier, and the way that you provide evidence is in the patient charts. And so when you're making those charts, you annotate and you make sure that you got the informed consent that it took place, talk about the time, and what transpired. From the legal side of things, we help dentists through investigations by the Dental Board of California. And the one thing that's most critical to helping them get through those difficult times and challenges is reverting back to the patient charts and the patient notes. That's ultimately going to be the paper record that everybody relies upon. So if you are going to go down this path, I would make sure that you make the best notes that you can. Talk about the length of the consultation, what you saw, the method by which you spoke with them, the time. Be very detailed, especially as we are on the outset and we have to figure out the bounds and what gets people in hot water and what doesn't. I would urge caution there. Let's see.
And Justin, for somebody typed that the teledentistry.com website goes to a different page with a different spelling. I'll get some clarity on that and share that with you guys via email.
Yeah, I think that's the same. I saw that they have, I think they have both of those sites, but that's something that we can follow up on after the conclusion of this. Regarding general billing questions or how to bill providers, I'm not going to be able to provide you with detailed answers and information on that, but all I can say is that it's going to depend on the provider and that you should, check out the ADA internal billing guidance. See which providers have provided the ADA with information about how to bill properly and what they will accept and what they won't. And then also, as you reach out to them, it may be a little bit of trial and error, but, I would recommend taking that approach.
Can you share your screen again with your contact information so we have that? And I apologize, when I talk, it's showing a name card with my name on it.
Don't worry about
this
it.
Has been 2 weeks into this, I'm still getting my technology down. But
I'm still learning it too. So here's my contact. Actually, I'm going to go all the way to the end.
And Justin, we've got pretty close to the top of the hour here at noon. We've still got over 100 people in the room. As far as the HIPAA compliance review, do you offer a review if people want to reach out to you and share some information with you to make sure that their forms and everything are in line with what you're looking for?
Yeah, if you got questions, if you want to jump onto teledentistry and start providing this to your patients, would love to help revise informed consent forms, draft them, talk to you about your platform, go through what issues, how you're using it right now, how you're communicating with people, so that we can at least start to position you for getting into a HIPAA compliant method of communicating with your patients, so that when this is over and those restrictions are reimposed, that there's no interruption in your business. I've got my information here. I'm available by email, which is justin@dentalattorneys.com. The 949 number is my office line. I'm also providing my personal number, which is 213-369-8698. Just respectfully request that you respect my time and limit it to office hours. Wood and Delgado is a law firm that advises private practice healthcare professionals and really focuses on dentists and their business needs. And so we'll help out with mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, partnerships, DSOs, general business questions. I've got a general litigation background, also with some experience in bankruptcy, which I hope isn't necessary, as we move through this difficult time in the months that are to come. But if you have insolvency questions, if you have general litigation questions, please feel free to reach out to me. If we can't handle it in-house, we'll refer it out and make sure that you're put the best position in with someone that can help you out. The website's dentalattorneys.com. And I've also got my LinkedIn and Twitter up there. Over the coming weeks and months, I will be posting information about lease review, about rent reduction, deferral, bankruptcy, all of the unique topics that I kind of run across in my dealings and helping people out in this field. I'm going to be posting and, providing as much information to people as I can. And if you've got questions and they're good, then, I might even write an article on it. So I appreciate you attending and giving Jonathan and I your time this morning. And I hope this was informative.
And Justin, on behalf of the 150 people plus that were on the call, thank you for your time. To get a legal perspective, understandably, this information is kind of a work in progress, and some of the rules are kind of being made up as we go. But to get a legal perspective as to what's going on is definitely good. Are you going to be able to provide to email you a single page or your slides as to the presentation so they can review some of that information? Is that something they can reach out to you for and email you?
Yeah, please. I'm a little hesitant to just send out the slide deck because I worked on it all week.
Maybe a one page if you could.
I could put together a one pager to provide a summary, and feel free to reach out. All three of us at the firm are doing everything we can to just kind of plug the holes.
Awesome, folks. I appreciate it. And you seem to be taking the lead in the dental legal community on this topic. Do you provide a newsletter periodically, or what's the best way that they can keep abreast of what you're learning as you go? Because I know you're putting an incredible amount of time into figuring this teledentistry situation out.
So I'm going to be posting information through LinkedIn and Twitter, and then I'm also going to be, on this topic and other novel topics and important topics. There's going to be a ton of them right now. I'm going to be pushing that information through the dental societies, and we'll also be putting it on our website. So please check in on the website just to kind of stay current with everything. And so I'm streamlining and getting this mode of delivering information out to everybody, kind of buttoned up over the next week. So please sit tight, follow LinkedIn and Twitter, and keep my contact information. Feel free to reach out if you got general questions or if you want to see what's going on.
Awesome, Justin. And I'd love to invite you back for this platform. Obviously, as you kind of know, I started this a week ago. We've had a few thousand dentists come through. No affiliation cost, anything necessary. I just want to disseminate as much valuable information with people like you that we possibly can. So I would love to invite you back on another topic or in a week. I appreciate the panel discussion. That was pretty awesome. You and Dr. Vias there together kind of tackling the questions. Yeah, I really appreciate it. So I thank everyone for coming. I invite you all to reach out to Justin. His contact information is here on the screen. Once again, it's been a fun ride. We've got some great presentations next week lined up. I'll send the information on that. I'd ask that you all just stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy this time with your family. This is a unique time we're going through. And please feel free to refer anyone you might think might enjoy these conversations and topics. Send them the email. They can partake as well. And look forward to seeing you guys all again. Justin, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thanks, John.